on your TV, somebody's doing that song.
You basically took a step back.
The light at the end of the tunnel is probably Trey.
I didn't really know what to expect as much.
This helps when this gets gray.
Talking about your other projects, what will happen to them?
Bringing Before the Dawn back doesn't fit to any schedules, any long-term plans at all.
Hello, you metal pilgrims, and welcome to the new interview episode on the channel. And our today's guest is the person whom, and I know that I said that before, but I'm always happy to welcome on the show, Mr. Tuomas Saukkonen of Wolfheart. And for the very first time on the show, we're actually going to speak about Before the Dawn. Tuomas, thank you so much for finding time and joining me today. How are you, man?
It's always a pleasure, and I'm sweaty but good. Just actually finished my drum rehearsals for the next Before the Dawn show. So
wow, that's awesome. That's good news. The funniest thing, man, I remember we spoke last time and you said, hey, make sure to look out for big news about some other band that I was once a part of. And then literally 2 hours later, your Facebook spoke about the return of Before the Dawn. So first of all, man, congrats. It's been 10 long years since we've heard anything new from the band, right? And it's always a pleasure. I remember, being very much into Before the Dawn back in the day, back when you were first active and your first coming. And for me personally, this was a very pleasant surprise to see you guys, return to this. So first of all, why now? What changed in the past 10 years that made you decide to bring the legendary melodic death metal band back to life?
Oh, this is going to be a long answer because this.
We've got a lot of time, man. before the first air raid siren, we got a lot of time.
But yeah, it's. I know. I'm going to start with the initial spark, kind of like started the whole domino effect, and that was Paavo performing Death Song in the national TV when he was competing in Voice of Finland. Yeah. That kind of like that activated like the final lineup of the band, and you actually called me like, turn on your TV, somebody's doing Death Song. I'm like, what? And yeah, very like. Didn't expect that to happen, and that kind of like kept like it stayed like a nice thing in the brain, but it didn't lead directly to anything Before the Dawn related. I started communicating with Paavo during the competition, and when he was done with the finals, I asked him like, would he be interested of doing some kind of like a music thing together? I would be like happy to write some songs for him for his solo career or something. Like I would have a lot of like riffs that would fit to his voice, and yeah, he did an amazing job with Death Song. So I think my riffs would actually work really well with his vocals. We went in the studio, we got the song recorded. When I was driving home from the studio, listening to the final mix of the song, then it hit me like, fuck, this sounds like Before the Dawn. That where the whole thing started. Then I sent during the same car drive, I sent the MP3 file to the other members of the band that were the final lineup, the sound engineer who used to do us live, the label boss that used to release us in Finland back in the days, everybody who were like in the inner circle of the band back in the days, and asking like, check the song, am I going crazy? Or do I hear something that maybe should be considered now? And everybody was like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Then last person who I called was Paavo, asking like, can we change the name of your solo project into Before the Dawn? So, but it's like that's how less we thought the whole comeback. It was never supposed to happen. It was never planned. We never sat down to talk about it or planned. Suddenly we had one song already like mixed and recorded for Before the Dawn. We even knew we were going to do a comeback. I think this has to be one of the less planned comebacks. History.
This is awesome, man. And which song was that?
Downhearted.
Okay, that's cool. That's awesome, man. Awesome. Well, I know that okay, so I got to be honest with you. As I said, right, I followed Before the Dawn back in the day, and of course, I was very eager to hear the new one. At the same time, together with this childish anticipation. A lot of fans, and I assume you as well, felt like this was a completely new band at the same time. Did you feel that as well? And was it, did you have this baggage after that first initial song was done? Did you have that baggage of the old days weighing in on you when writing new material for the band? Did you feel like you had to follow up on where you left off?
Actually, no. And talking about the follow-up, the last album the band released was Rise of the Phoenix. That differs a lot from the other albums, having a lot of blast beats and super fast bass drums, and there's no clean vocals at all. So the final album was already, to me, the first Wolfheart album. Mm-hmm. So following up, that would have made no sense at all. And it started weird because usually I have the idea of an album when I start to write. Now I already have started writing the album without knowing that I'm writing the album, because we had already one song ready and mixed and everything that already set the path for the rest of the songs. So I didn't need to think about the package. If I would have gotten a phone call from a label, put Before the Dawn back together, start writing album now, I would have thought it differently if I would have started from the scratch. Now the whole process was already in motion accidentally, but still. So there was no package at all because the process was already started without actually starting it.
And I think you can actually, hear it. I feel like you've, in addition to it being a Before the Dawn, record, you can hear it in the DNA. It's still engraved in the DNA of the sound. I feel like your personal baggage of the past years, and what you have achieved with Wolfheart, and Paavo's experience and everybody else's experience also adds up to the sound, creating something slightly different from what I even expected, because I didn't really know what to expect as much. I thought that it would be much more similar to what Wolfheart has been doing for the past years and during the past albums, right? Than it turned out to be. But I think it turned out great, and the fans' response has been amazing.
Yeah. To us, it's also we are in a completely different place than the fans. What I've noticed when we started to look at the statistics of the streaming, for example, we didn't really pay much attention. Juha has been super busy with Swallows, and I've been leading Wolfheart, so nobody was really thinking about Before the Dawn. Mm-hmm. During the past 10 years, there's been over 14 million plays in Spotify, with no promotion, no playlists, no nothing. It's just organically growing, which doesn't really make sense because that's not how music business usually works. You push money and shitload of work, and then maybe something happens. That's the pattern of the music business. So it's a lot of fans have been a lot more attached to the old stuff than we are. Mm-hmm. We let the band go 10 years ago. We didn't listen to it. It didn't the meaning of the band changed for a long time because we went to our own paths and did our own things for a decade. But clearly a lot of fans kept the band very closely. So they for them, the change is completely different because one day before they were still listening to the old stuff, suddenly there's new. I didn't write anything for Before the Dawn for 12 years until now. So I'm like a reborn Before the Dawn member, kind of it's we fans and the band come to the music completely from different directions, especially in our case. But yeah, you mentioned the package thing, but it's to us it's also weird. We didn't analyze or think at all at the studio. We just wanted to make something that sounds good to our ears. Mm-hmm. And it came out very much like Before the Dawn. I think it's like riding a bicycle. We learned to ride that bicycle for 15 years back in the days. We should know it by now.
How was it working with the guys, whom you haven't worked with for so long?
Well, yeah. We haven't worked with Before the Dawn and those guys, but Pyry has been playing in the few Dawn of Solace shows that we did. Mm-hmm. Juha has been recording and mixing most of the Wolfheart albums. So
you had to distinguish them. You had to differentiate them. and you didn't work as Before the Dawn with those guys. So was it hard to like cut everything else you've got achieved through the years? That's what I meant, right? And sit down and basically write a new record with the people whom you've been working with so long ago.
Never really look at that way. I think it felt a lot less work than any other album I've been doing for the past 14 years. Like last Before the Dawn album felt really much like work, because we already knew that this is probably going to be the last one. We are facing huge obstacles with the label side and everything. Like all the different paths of the future look pretty grim at that time. So it wasn't like a nice mood to be in the studio, knowing that the light at the end of the tunnel is probably trade. This is what we need to prepare for. So it's but yeah, this felt, even though I've been working with these people in different band titles, this felt less like work.
What about you switching to drums completely? Is that a permanent decision? Like, is your heart settled on this? Is this how the band is going to go? And when performing live, you're just going to be doing drums now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why did you decide to do that? What was the reasoning behind it? I assume it was not because you couldn't find a drummer.
No. I played drums in 3 Before the Dawn albums back in the days. I did all Black Sinian albums, Dawn of Solace albums, even the first Wolfheart album. So when I'm approaching like the studio work, it's super natural for me to play the drums myself, because I already have the arrangements in my head. And there's huge amount of songs from Before the Dawn catalog. Like I play drums on Dead Song, The Ghost. On those 2 albums alone, there's such a huge amount of songs I always wanted to play as a drummer, but naturally there was no opportunity because I was the lead man in the front of the stage.
Mm-hmm.
And also Paavo is doing both growling and clean vocals. So where would I fit in the stage? It wouldn't be a good I gotta like.
You basically took a step back.
Yeah, inviting Paavo to the band. He took my place also on the stage as a front man, and to me it was like the most natural thing, and I wouldn't want to be a front man in 2 bands at the same time. Having both Wolfheart and Before the Dawn as me on the front at the same time would have made the whole comeback impossible.
Mm-hmm. Talking about your other projects, what will happen to them, you feel like? Do you think that with the rebirth of Before the Dawn, Wolfheart, will go to the second, it will become second in line in your priorities, or you think it's not possible at this point?
We need to see year by year, because Juho is also very busy with Follow the Sun. So I think our schedules dictate the priorities also. Mm-hmm. And we are working with some new material with Wolfheart. I'm doing the same with Dawn of Solace. So neither one of those bands are going to slow down at all. So I don't know. Like I said, we didn't plan this to happen. This doesn't bringing Before the Dawn back doesn't fit to any schedules, any long-term plans at all. So, but we've been super lucky this year. We're still going to have a Finnish club tour. We're going to do a European tour. And none of the schedules are overlapping with Wolfheart or Swallow the Sun.
I feel like, when as the time goes by, and hopefully both of the bands, will gain more and more popularity. You said that Before the Dawn has been, getting millions of streams without any promo. And now I assume this is supposed to pick up even at a higher pace, right? It's going to be hard, I feel like, to tour with both bands, and in one point you might have to prioritize one or the other. I might be wrong here, but we spoke with Richie Faulkner of Judas Priest and now Elegant Weapons of the same thing, right? And his response was, yes, I'll try to do this for as long as it, in the end does not interfere with Judas Priest, because you have to set a priority, at some point if the time comes that they overlap.
Well, like I said, we take things year by year. Luckily, we are able to, our touring schedules and the lengths of the tour are nothing compared to like Judas Priest. Like if they set the tours in the calendar, that might mean 18 months of back-to-back touring. And it's just the communication between the agencies and management is pretty much the key. So I think that is going to play a huge role in the future also, that the people who work for us understands things and they don't see this as a competition, because always when there's a touring class for Follow the Sun, we're not going to plan anything for Before the Dawn anyway. It doesn't mean that the band wouldn't be a priority, but I think we are so much older. You mentioned the gray beard already. This happened during our after the last interview we did. So this is how
half a year or what?
So it's like we are getting older. We don't feel this kind of like panic that everything has to happen now, and every gig that is somewhere in the horizon is the biggest thing ever, and nothing can interfere or compete with that. We just want to do things now that feel good. Don't stress too much about it. I think that's the biggest lesson from the whole pandemic. Like everybody lost hundreds of thousands of gigs, and now when everything is coming back, there's huge amount of complications with the cost and everything. And I think a lot of people just want to get things done that feel good at the moment.
That is true. That is true. One thing that I learned in the last year and a half living in Ukraine is living day by day. And, this is one of those skills, I'll be honest with you, that I will very much cherish and use after our victory as well, because this is a very, very useful skill to have. And I assume the same for when it comes to, touring with a band, just take it one day at a time, 1 year at a time, whatever it is, the time period that you set for yourself, and don't look too much ahead. All right, man. Let's go back a little bit to the album and the new sound. Talk a little bit about about how did the first of all the writing process work for it, right? I mean, did you let Paavo write all the lyrics? Did you write the lyrics? What about the music? Did the dynamics change a lot? And how much of Paavo's input was in this new album?
First of all, the songwriting itself, when it comes to the music, I did the same like I always do, that I write the basic like musical material. Juho wrote all the solos for him, and I did the lyrics, but all the vocal arrangements and melodies, that work started based on Paavo's ideas. It wouldn't make any sense to bring a new guy to the band and not letting him to bring his own input or sound. So the really cool thing is that he is and was a huge fan of Before the Dawn. That's why he chose Death Song for the Voice of Finland. So I could hear a lot of very cool Before the Dawn vibes from his ideas that he was sending. When I was sending him the demos, he sent me the vocal demos. So it didn't feel like we are changing too much from my perspective as a songwriter. And but yeah, there's a lot of Paavo's ideas with the vocals, and I completed the lyrics based on his arrangements and stuff like that. So
are you guys excited to hit the road already? And you mentioned before we started that you started practicing, right? I mean, you're actually in the middle of a rehearsal right now, I assume. Just finished it. Red Bull.
This helps when this gets gray. It's just bigger cans when the beer gets grayer. That's my
less beer, more Red Bull. So does it feel like the band is back? I mean, do you feel like with the new people in the crowd, in the mix already, do you feel like a proper band already? And do you feel like we're ready to hit the stage at this moment already? Or there is still this element of you getting used to each other?
Well, we already did 3 festivals in Finland, so a total amount of 4 gigs. We did official comeback show, then 2 festivals, and 1 comeback show for European fans in Switzerland. So we already started playing gigs, and it feels like there was not a day in the between. Of course, it's a little bit different because I'm not on the stage anymore. I play the drums, and there's a new vocalist, so it's not exactly the same. But I just love the feeling in the band.
This is awesome.
And also, it's not like me and Juho, of course, Pyry is equally like a vital member, but we've been doing this for 20 years. We recorded Deadlight album at Juho's rehearsal place. That was not even a studio. We didn't have a modern technology, super fancy studio stuff back in the days. And that's where we are coming to this point. But we've seen it all. We've done so many festivals, so many tours. Nothing is surprising in a certain level anymore. But then we have Paavo, who is just starting to do his first festivals. We did the first music video session that he was ever part of. He's never done touring. He's never played in Europe. So that excitement adds up to us old guys also. So it's like I didn't think it could feel this exciting. Let's put it this way, because Wolfheart is like a train. Mm-hmm. It's just going forward, and this Before the Dawn thing just fell from the sky, and I didn't feel that I would be this nervous and this excited to go on stage.
This is awesome, man. This is awesome, and this just makes me really, really wish that I personally will be able to see you with Before the Dawn, with Wolfheart, or any other of your projects. Got a bunch now, on the stage and rock out and in one of the sweaty clubs or festivals, because rock and roll, that's where rock and roll and heavy metal lives. And I always keep saying that. Hopefully you guys will be able to come to Ukraine very, very soon, and hopefully make a lot of good memories, on the road in my country as well, man. Because
I definitely want to be one of the first, no matter what the band is, I want to be one of the first to play in Ukraine.
Thank you.
First thing is when it's possible.
Yeah. Thank you. You have a huge army of fans over here, and we all are very, very eager to see you out and rock out your music, man. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Tuomas. Any last message for the fans, both old and new?
Both old and new. Well, now that we are back on the business and on the road, I just hope to see all of you as soon as possible.
This was Tuomas Saukkonen of Before the Dawn, ladies and gentlemen. Their new album, the first one in 12 years, is already out via Napalm Records. So make sure to check it out if you haven't yet. I'm sure both old and new fans of this band will absolutely, absolutely love it. Tuomas, thank you so much for joining me today. Keep rocking, man.
Thank you.